Today's video we're going to cover the evolution of the NW-2 switchers. Lionel introduced these in 1949 and there was a lot of firsts, and just like everything else Lionel made is they produced these from 49 all the way into the late 60s, and they got cheaper to make and had less features as they progressed along that timeline. So should be interesting. I do not have all of them. I'll substitute pictures in for the ones I don't have, but we'll try to give each one of these guys their just deserves and cover them up in this video. So in the beginning, 1949, railroads were changing. The steam locomotive, though still in service, was starting to be replaced with the diesel counterparts, and Lionel had their F3s starting to be introduced, but they needed a switcher type lower end, and so the very first year they introduced a 622 and a 6220. Both of these engines were basically identical, but one with the 6220 was specifically numbered for 027 gauge, with the 3-digit number being for O gauge. The 622 itself was unique in that it had its number located on the front of the unit as well as on the side. It was also the very first year that Lionel introduced magnet traction. So these units all either had 1 or 2 axle magnet traction. And what made the 622 and the 6220 even more special was they had a mechanically operated bell that kids just loved, and I bet the parents didn't. There was no way to shut that guy off, so you had that constant bell ringing as it went around the track. I find, as always with Lionel's first go around, the engines definitely run smoother and much higher quality. Obviously with the first introduction of these, we're talking cast frames. They're very heavy and a sturdy built engine. A lot of ornamental items such as headlight lenses, brake wheels, bells, smokestacks, a lot of ornamental stuff on these. But here's the 622, so those aren't familiar with what the bell ringer sounds like, we'll send this guy around. So that was Lionel's pre-installation of horns in these units, had that bell ringer. And just for equal time, here's the 6220 027 version, same engine. So that initial offering was from 49 and 51. Then in 52, they released the 623, which again is virtually identical to the 2 prior units that they were making. Gone now is the horn. Gone now is that mechanical bell, and this one was a quiet runner. also in 1952, Lionel released the 624 Blue Chesapeake and Ohio. Mechanically, it's the same as the 623, just Lionel realized the competition was coming out with some varied designs, and they had those three black ones, so they introduced a little more color with the blue 624 Chesapeake and Ohio. One of the common issues with this is this was a water transfer decal, so these are known to peel off or be replaced. Just one other thing to note with the first three, they actually came with two light bulbs, one for the front and one for the rear of the cab, and that was soon to end. Next up will be another O-Gauge NW-2. Alright, so now the year is 1954, and they released an 027 engine numbered 6250. It's the blue and orange Seaboard paint scheme. This is the last year for the two light bulbs and the die-cast frame. And we'll start seeing how they started to cheapen the brand. One of my favorite things, to me, these are like sleeper locomotives. Not a lot of people really give them a lot of attention. But these engines were unique and easy to work on. They had the easy cab removal by just using a screwdriver and twisting the little mounting tabs. There's one on the front and one on the back. It was a very easy engine if you had to open it up and take it apart and access whatever you needed. It's probably one of the easiest locomotives to work on in all of Lionel's productions. So we'll put this guy on the track, send him around. Now the year is 1955, and here comes some of the cost-cutting measures being introduced. For low-end sets, they started to make a number 600 MKT engine. This guy, no light, sheet metal frame, still had the 3-position E-unit. Ornamental stuff started to disappear. No headlight lenses on this guy. It's just a stripped down version. And that was the offering for 1955. One of the offerings. Another thing to note, when they went away from the die-cast frame, they also no longer had the electromagnet couplers. So they went with the magnet version with the discs on the bottom. So that's how the latches now worked in the front and the rear. And as time goes on, you'll see they'll even cheapen that design a little more. And we'll cover that when we get there. So also they offered a 610 in this year. It's a black cab, same exact allocations as the 600, no light, no horn, and it looked like this as pictured. I don't have one in my collection, but mechanically it's all the same. So now moving from 1955 to 1956, we now have the introduction of a 601 Seaboard, red and black. Now they've started to upgrade these engines a little, and this one included a horn. These, it's easy to tell if it's the original workings, because inside these windows you can see the horn canister standing up. I don't have a battery. I don't keep batteries in these, so the horn's not going to work for my display purposes. But here is the 601 unit. So all of these, remember, they all have magnet traction, so these were all excellent pullers and all had quite a bit of get up and go. Also, in 1956 came the next unit, which is now going to be the Jersey Central 621. Again, for the year, there's no basic difference other than the shells here. No lights. This one did not have a horn. Just the Jersey Central logo in blue. One thing that they did add, actually, was right here they started to add the plastic fender skirts, and they did that in a couple of different ways. Some of them, it was part of the sheet metal, and on this one it was a plastic insert that they added. So now we're leaving 1956 and we're going into 1957, and yes, this is a 601, but in 1957 they introduced the 602, which is the same exact engine as the 601, but I guess it was an oversight, or however they want to look at it. They realized there was no lights in these units, so they had to make a change to the sheet metal frame to incorporate a light bulb. So the 602, only difference between that and the 601 is that it had one single light at the front of the cab, front of the engine here. So in addition to the 602 that now had the light, they came up with a 611 marked Jersey Central, which had the same paint scheme as the 6250, just a different road name on it. I don't have the 611, but again, it's identical to the 601 and how it was put together and ran, with the exception of also having the light added to it. Now we're moving to 1958, and the NW-2 offering got a little cheaper with the addition of the 613. 613 had its number on the front, and while we're at the front, when they went to the sheet metal, like I was raving about earlier with the little tabs and the screwdriver, how easy it was to take the tops off, when they went to the sheet metal frames, they have a tab right down here that's locked into the back of the unit, and they added a screw in the front to remove it. That is a stress point. A lot of the engines are broken off. This one is actually one that has been broken off and I repaired, but something to look for on these engines. Another thing with 58 and following years went back to the other way, but some of these lower end sets now have non-operating couplers. They're all simulated. So this one, the front and the back, have non-operating couplers. The 613 though is a rather hard engine to find in good shape, or well, just hard to find period. But it's a nice road color. Obviously the Union Pacific name people do follow and like. So here we are in 1959, and they released the 614 NW-2 in the Alaska road name, and this year had the unique dynamic air brake mold attached to it. Made it look different. It was there. This was a 1 year only set. As it would have come, it would have had a Alaska gondola, a 6825 bridge car, the Alaska hopper, and a Alaska caboose. Also in the set would have been a black two-dome Lionel lines with the L logo. Two-dome tank car. Try to find one of those. I have had no luck looking or coming across one of those. But for 59, the NW-2 was the 614. Alright, so now we're getting into the 60s, and for 1961 Lionel introduced the 616. It's a unique engine. What you'll see here is has the cutout has returned, but this one has a 3-position E unit, and the E lever is actually back located underneath it. This engine also did not come with a bell, but the hole was there for it. So there were a lot of people that went and added bells back to them. So in this particular instance, somebody added a bell. It should have been an open slot. As they went through the evolutions, the last year that they made this one, the holes for the bell were plugged as well as for the E unit slot. But as it stood its introductory year, it was a stripped down version of it, and that's what we had. Now I have 2 of these because somebody else got inventive on my other unit, and besides adding the bell, they also added front marker lights. So it was well done. I never realized until I sat down and started reading that it wasn't even supposed to have marker lights. Thing is with these, again, they still non-operating couplers, but both of them had horns. The 616s always had horns. And I just also misspoke. They remade this again 2 years later as 617, and that's when the holes were all filled in the cab. Now we're moving up to 1962, and we have the Santa Fe 633. Here you can see they have now they're no longer adding that plastic lower carriage piece. Now it's part of this sheet metal frame, just stamped and bent over It's a 2-position E unit. Again, it's a lower end unit, and I'm not a fan of that 2-position E unit either. Okay, so as covered before, we had the 616 that was in 61 and 62, and now for 1963 they have released the 617, and they finally gave it some respect. Now it still has the horn, and all the ornaments have now been added. So now we have the ornamental brake wheel, a horn, and the front marker lights have been added to it. Nice little engine now. Finally got some respect. Alright, so now we're coming to the end of the video here, and kind of like Lionel in the 60s, I'm going to fizzle out here because I do not have the 634 version of this engine. The 633 was a little more dressed up. The 634 did not have any of the yellow cross hatching. All it had was the Santa Fe marking in yellow, and that was it for cosmetics. They started to get a little bit cheaper. I have a picture posted so you can see what it actually did look like. Just another area where they started to cut corners. The final 2 engines were also the same. They were Union Pacific, same exact frame as you would see on the 634. It had a yellow cab with red lettering marked Union Pacific. The first one of these was 1965. It was numbered 635. It actually was an uncatalogued item, so it was included in a bunch of their direct purchase store sales. Nothing all that notable about it. One thing that it does, it was the first introduction of traction tires on the drive wheels, so no magnet traction, and just further cheapening of the hobby. So now the final post-war edition was exactly the same as the 635. Now it's a 645. The interesting thing about that is the uncatalogued 635 had its number posted on the nose of the unit. The 645 has no number whatsoever on it, and it still maintained the traction tires, and was kind of an unremarkable end to the NW-2 line. So that concludes the walk down history lane with the NW-2s. Hope you found it interesting.